All right, so we're about to do the first 50 like we do every joining prior to our satsang. So I'm just going to take a moment to just drop into, I guess you can say the heart, just drop into this space and allowing yourself to feel the presence of spirit, just opening up, offering yourself up. And if anyone feels to extend a prayer, I always love to hear your prayers. Otherwise, we'll sit silently until someone feels to start reading. I'm going to start. I'm going to read a couple. And like you mentioned at the beginning, Bernadette, I'm reading from the COA version. So there may be slight differences. Call me out, though, if you see them, because I might just be caught up in my mind and missing, skipping what I don't want to hear. So call me out.
Okay.
Thank you, love. All right. Hey, Michelle. Nothing I see means anything. The reason this is so is that I see nothing, and nothing has no meaning. It is necessary that I recognize this, that I may learn to see. What I think I see now is taking the place of sight. I must let it go by realizing that it has no meaning, so that vision may take its place. I have given what I see all the meaning it has for me. I have judged everything I look upon, and it is this and only this that I see. This is not vision. It is merely an illusion of reality because my judgments have been made quite apart from reality. I am willing to recognize the lack of validity in my judgments because I want to see. My judgments have hurt me. And I do not want to see according to them. Hi, Michelle. I want to say hi to you. I thought you were another Michelle that I knew. Would you unmute for a second? Can you? Hi.
Hey.
Hi. So
Hello.
It's your
My
first time
video
here?
quality is terrible.
Okay. Well, we just make do what we do.
Okay,
um,
great.
so we're reading the first 50, the review of the first 50. So starting at 51. Do you have a book?
I do.
Awesome. So we would love for you to join us in this. It's a
Okay, great. Thank you.
participatory thing we got going on. So really lovely to meet you.
Nice to meet you as well.
Awesome. And we'll chat a bit later. We'll
Sounds
let
great.
Holy Spirit like lead the way right now. So
What?
All right. All right, Bernadette, you want to read a few?
Sure.
All right, love. Thank you.
I do not understand anything I see. How could I understand what I see when I have judged it amiss? What I see is a projection of my own errors of thought. And I do not understand what I see because it is not understandable. There is no sense in trying to understand it. But there is every reason to let it go and make room for what can be seen and understood and loved. I can exchange what I see now for this merely by being willing to do so. Is not this a better choice than the one I made before? These thoughts do not mean anything. The thoughts of which I am aware do not mean anything because I am trying to think without God. What I call my thoughts are not my real thoughts. My real thoughts are the thoughts I think with God. I am not aware of them because I have made my thoughts to take their place. I am willing to recognize that my thoughts do not mean anything and to let them go. I choose to have them be replaced by what they were intended to replace. My thoughts are meaningless, but all creation lies in the thoughts I think with God. One more.
Yeah, thank you.
I am never upset for the reason I think. I'm never upset for the reason I think because I am constantly trying to justify my thoughts. I'm constantly trying to make them true. I make all things my enemies so that my anger is justified and my attacks are warranted. I have not realized how much I have misused everything I see by assigning this role to it. I have done this to defend the thought system that has hurt me and that I no longer want. I'm willing to let it go.
Thank you, love. Hey, Anna, you want to read a few?
Mm.
Thank you. Can't hear you. Oh, you know?
Yeah, my mute's not working, or my unmute.
That might have been me, my fault. Maybe. I'm responsible for everything.
I am upset because I see what is not there. Reality is never frightening. It is impossible that it could upset me. Reality brings only perfect peace. When I am upset, it is always because I have replaced reality with illusions I made up. The illusions are upsetting because I have given them reality, and thus regard reality as an illusion. Nothing in God's creation is affected in any way by this confusion of mine. I am always upset by nothing. I see only the past. As I look about, I condemn the world I look upon. I call this seeing. I hold the past against everyone and everything, making them my enemies. When I have forgiven myself and remembered who I am, I will bless everyone and everything I see. There will be no past, and therefore no enemies. And I will look with love on all that I failed to see before. My mind is preoccupied with past thoughts. I see only my own thoughts, and my mind is preoccupied with the past. What then can I see as it is? Let me remember that I look on the past to prevent the present from dawning on my mind. Let me remember that I look on the past to prevent the present from dawning on my mind. Let me understand that I am trying to use time against God. Let me learn to give the past away, realizing that in so doing, I am giving up nothing. I see nothing as it is now. If I see nothing as it is now, it can truly be said that I see nothing. I can see only what is now. The choice is not whether to see the past or the present. The choice is merely whether to see or not. What I have chosen to see has cost me vision. Now I would choose again that I may see.
Thank you. Michelle, you want to read a few? Who wants me?
So I have the Course in Miracles workbook.
And it's
Okay.
actually
page?
lesson 52, and we're on number 5 or number 10, 10th lesson. My thoughts do not mean anything. I should get my FIP.
Okay. Yeah. And we are on 10.
Just
Okay.
take a breath. Just take a moment.
Can you hear me okay? Because my video is terrible, but I don't know. How's the audio?
You sound fine.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay,
you
good.
sound fine. You sound fine. But just settle in for a minute because you were searching, checking on your video. So just drop in and let all that go.
Let's move my computer away from you a little bit. Terrible quality.
Nah, don't worry about that.
All right, as long as you can hear me.
Yeah, as long as you can hear you.
Okay. My thoughts do not mean anything. I have no private thoughts, yet it is only private thoughts of which I am aware. What can these thoughts mean? They do not exist, and so they mean nothing. Yet my mind is part of creation and part of its creator. Would I not rather join the thinking of the universe than to obscure all that is really mine with my pitiful and meaningless private thoughts?
Beautiful. Keep going.
You want me to go right on to lesson 53?
Yes, please.
Okay. Today we will review the following. My meaningless thoughts are showing me a meaningless world. Since the thoughts of which I am aware do not mean anything, the world that pictures them can have no meaning. What is producing this world is insane, and so is what it produces. Reality is not insane, and I have real thoughts as well as insane ones. I can therefore see a real world if I look to my real thoughts as my guide for seeing. I am upset because I see a meaningless world. Insane thoughts are upsetting. They produce a world in which there is no order anywhere. Only chaos rules a world that represents chaotic thinking, and chaos has no laws. I cannot live in peace in such a world. I am grateful that this world is not real, and that I need not see it at all unless I choose to value it. And I do not choose to value what is totally insane and has no meaning.
Does that seem particularly familiar to you, Michelle?
The whole book does. Yes, it does. Today I ventured into some insane thoughts, so this is really good.
Read the next one, please.
Sure.
I'm really enjoying your reading.
Oh, thank you. A meaningless world engenders fear. The totally insane engenders fear because it is completely undependable and offers no ground for trust. Nothing in madness is dependable. It holds out no safety and no hope. But such a world is not real. I have given it the illusion of reality and have suffered from my belief in it. Now I choose to withdraw this belief and place my trust in reality. And in choosing this, I will escape all the effects of the world of fear because I am acknowledging that it does not exist. God did not create a meaningless world.
Beautiful. Beautiful. There is a beautiful familiarity about you, about your voice.
Oh, thank you.
Apart from the fact that we're all one and everything else like that, and that we all know each other better than we know, you know. There's something in your reading, and it's clerical, and I'm just trying to find it in my mind. It's like you're part of the team, part of a team of checkers or editors or something. Before the course was channeled, it's like Ted used to talk about it as some of us have had jobs with Jesus for many lifetimes, you know, doing all sorts of different things. And you're reading that with such a familiarity, not verbally, but resonantly. I can hear it. I just totally, like, it goes straight through me.
Thank you. I'm so pleased with that.
There's like I want to try and get this out. It's like so if I were to look at it from a Buddhist point of view, right? So the Buddhism teaches about the bardo, where after you lay aside the vessel, you enter into one of the bardo states, and you're kind of like assessed as to whether you go forward or whether you have to come back and all of this sorts of stuff. In the course, Jesus, and he talked in the notes, like he talks to Helen and says, you've been weighed in the balance and found wanting. One of the experiences I had was, I don't know if I'm going to do this justice, but meeting with the elders. I call them the elders. Ted used to call them the tech crew. And sometimes I call them the council because they seem quite authoritative, but quite often I would get guidance from these non-temporal beings or non-temporal associations within the dream, but still, you know, it's like hearing a voice, but it's not the Holy Spirit's voice. It's almost clerical, like there's a bunch of academics, perhaps out of time, sitting around checking the course and making sure it doesn't contradict anywhere and doing all this stuff and getting it ready. And it's almost like an editing room, you know, where a bunch of editors come together and it's like, right, we've got to get this. Like, I'm sure you're from there. I don't even know how to describe it, but we've all come from other places to be here for this great experiment, to join in this thing. And every now and again, I used to talk about it as sometimes you meet people and you know subconsciously that they've got a clipboard and they're ticking things off and just, you know, and you'll get home in the evening and you'll reminisce about whatever went on in the day, and you'll be like, that was a really weird encounter I had with that person. I felt like they were assessing me or checking my work or whatever, you know, like that. So I see. I think
Thank you
you're
for
I think
sharing that.
you're part of this on a very other kind of level somewhere. It's nice. Can you read the next one?
I feel like I am as well.
Right. There's something reminiscent. There's something really reminiscent of when you read, my mind goes out of time. Now that's not uncommon. My mind flips out all the time.
Yeah, that's a good thing.
But when you read, it goes to a specific kind of frequency. There's a whole thing going on. Just keep reading for a minute. I'm going to see. You know, it's all just.
I'll be
Welcome.
happy to. God did not create a meaningless world. How can a meaningless world exist if God did not create it? He is the source of all meaning, and everything that is real is in his mind. It is in my mind too, because he created it with me. Why should I continue to suffer from the effects of my own insane thoughts when the perfection of a creation is my home? Let me remember the power of my decision and recognize where I really abide. My thoughts are images that I have made. Whatever I see reflects my thoughts. It is my thoughts that tell me where I am and what I am. The fact that I see a world in which there is suffering and loss and death shows me that I am seeing only the representation of my insane thoughts, and I'm not allowing my real thoughts to cast their beneficent light on what I see. Yet God's way is sure. The images I have made cannot prevail against him, because it is not my will that they do so. My will is his, and I will place no other gods before him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a certainty. There's an association you have when you read it. That's it's more than what I would normally encounter in somebody who's just reading it, who's been incarnated here and discovered the course for the first time. That's all I could tell you.
I am a new student of the course.
You are?
4 years. So pretty new, right?
Well,
but I have immersed myself in it completely in the 4 years. I have had it in my hands, and my life has changed completely.
Good.
It's been a blessing.
Oh, you have many blessings to come, I guarantee you.
Oh boy, I can't wait.
Yeah, don't wait.
I hope not.
Waiting is the denial of the immediacy of it.
Yeah.
So, Tina, can you read the next one, please?
I have no neutral thoughts. Neutral thoughts are impossible because all thoughts have power. They will either make a false world or lead me to the real one. But thoughts cannot be without effects. As the world I see arises from my thinking errors, so will the real world rise before my eyes as I let my errors be corrected. My thoughts cannot be neither true nor false. They must be one or the other. What I see shows me which they are.
Good. Do the next one.
I see no neutral things. What I see witnesses to what I think. It is impossible to see nothing because it is impossible not to think. If I did not think, I would not exist, because being is thought. Let me look on the world I see as the representation of my own state of mind. I know that my state of mind can change, and so I also know the world I see can change as well.
What book are you reading from?
COA.
What lesson was that?
Lesson 17 in the review. I know it has a whole line in there that's not in the FIP.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah, I like that. I mean, yeah, I like that.
Let me just look at that. 17.
Is it in your sparkly or your white edition?
I see no things. What I see, what witnesses to what I think. If I did not think, I would not exist, because life is thought. Let me look on the world as the representation of my own state of mind. I know that my state of mind can change, and so I also know the world I see can change as well. Read lesson 32, Tina, please. Review 2.
The review?
Yeah.
I have invented the world I see.
All right, stop. Close your eyes and take a deep breath. Really deep breath. Hold it in, let it out slowly. Do a couple of those. Forget the idea of being in a Zoom meeting. You're reading this to yourself. Allow it to be the most important thing you've ever read. Allow it to be the first time you've ever read it. Brand new in this moment. Try to find the wonder of reading these words for the first time. Try to get a sense of slipping just beyond the words into the feeling of the words, where they touch you in your heart space, where they resonate like a bell in your mind, where doors and windows fly open in your consciousness. Okay.
I have invented the world I see. I made up the prison in which I see myself.
Good.
All I need do is recognize this, and I am free. I have deluded myself into believing it is possible to imprison the Son of God. I was bitterly mistaken in this belief, which I no longer want.
Yes.
The Son of God must be forever free. He is as God created him, and not what I would make of him. He is where God would have him be, and not where I thought to hold him prisoner.
Good. Stay there in that feeling place. Stay there where you feel it. Let it do its work. Don't adjust to the feeling. Don't adjust to how that feels in you. Bernadette, the same.
The same lesson, or?
No, don't adjust.
Okay.
Allow the emotionality that these words, that these symbols arouse in you. to go to whatever extent they need to go to. The preoccupation with adjusting to the external world, it's something that the mind attempts to focus on again and again and again, 100 times a minute, rather than to actually feel the living message, the living words of Christ. These words, this book, it's not just a book from a shelf. Anna could finish my sentence for me right now. She knows what I'm talking about. Let these words do what they need to do in you. The tendency is to think. The tendency is to assume that, oh, I'm in a Zoom meeting, I have to keep reading. I'm in a Zoom meeting, everyone's waiting for me. I'm in a Zoom meeting, I've got to present myself in a certain way, whatever. That's not why we're here. We're here to fall apart. We're here to let it all collapse into a beautiful, glorious, defenseless heap and allow something else to happen that has nothing to do with our own making. Allow something miraculous to occur in all of that falling away. But the falling away can't happen if you allow yourself to continually adjust to it emotionally. Now, there's a strength in that defenselessness. There's an incredible strength in allowing yourself to feel it. Tina, your reading has changed in the last couple of months. In the last 6 weeks, there's a power in you that's starting to expand, starting to glow, starting to grow, something like an inner awareness of self. It's to do with recognizing purpose in everything. But don't stop there. You remember when I told you to read that place read the lessons from an objective place rather than allowing yourself to fall into that emotionality? Right? Now those two things are coming together in you. You're able to read it from an objective place as like the dreamer of your dream, as if you're reviewing something that's already gone by, because that's exactly what's happening. Exactly what's happening. And the emotionality of it is still coming up without you being attached to it. I don't know whether you've even recognized that. Probably not. When you start this course, when you start this journey, it's the same for everybody. We're all incredibly attached to our emotional states. We love our emotional states because all we've ever done before is to use them to verify some idea of our identity. Look at me, I'm sad. Look at me, I'm happy. That's not the real me at all, though. Sad or happy. It's not what I am. So now we're learning to look through that glass. We're learning to look through the glass darkly in the observance of it, and still being allowing of all that emotional shift and all that emotional transition to occur. You know? It's a beautiful thing. It's really subtle. It's like all of a sudden the dreamer and the dream are separated for a second so that you can look at it from every angle and go, oh my God, this book's talking to me. These words are talking to me. It's not a book in a bookstore that I pick up and anyone can pick it up. This is my book. This is my connection with Christ. This is my living message. And then all of a sudden you kind of come into an acceptance of that and you put it together in your own mind and you just get on with the job. It's like, oh God, damn, I've got to do this. I've got to put these lessons into practice in my life and I've got to apply this and whatever. And that begins to happen. And now because you have a new purpose, the purpose, which is shared with the Holy Spirit, kind of overrides the previous attachment you had to verification through the emotional states. And the emotions just start to get released automatically without you even perhaps becoming aware of anything that's triggering them. You know, Why would these words on this page trigger an emotional response in you? Why would they? They're just words. They don't mean anything to you. You haven't experienced yet what it is that they're referencing. These are just things that we all make up in our head. Oh, the Son of God. Oh, that sounds beautiful. That sounds wonderful. I want that. And we make up some kind of perspective about it, and then we associate with it in our own thinking. And when something comes into the view of our consciousness that kind of represents it, or we think represents it, we find this way to make a connection with it, and we say that we're doing something, but still nothing's actually happening. We're actually undoing, and you're beginning to see the undoing occurring whilst you seem to be in the doing of the lessons, in the doing of the pursuit of salvation. It's actually an undoing. So you're reading one thing and time is actually going backwards. You're not progressing forwards towards salvation at all. Time's going backwards to a point before time in your own consciousness. And the more that you persist in pursuing it, the more that you become more determined to pursue it, the less attachment you have with it emotionally. It's like you're opening a channel, and it's like all these emotions have been blocked up, and you've had all these blockages, and it just starts to come up, and you're like, oh, look at that. Look at me being happy. Look at me being sad. It's like you're really like there's a stepping back without being caught up in the dream. That's occurring in your mind now. Probably happened when you ate all those Tim Tams. I blessed those Tim Tams before I sent them to you. Not that really, it's still just in the dream, but hey, it's a funny idea. I went to the Vatican once, and they had little bottles of holy water that were apparently blessed by the Pope, but the Pope only has to do this or whatever he does, everything's blessed, like the universe. So it's like it's a funny thing when he says, oh, these bottles are blessed by the Pope. It's like, well, the Pope gives the universal blessing on everything. It doesn't matter whether it's the water or the birds in the sky or whatever, We'll charge an extra $1 for this holy water because it's been blessed. Yeah. All of a sudden, you start to see the dream for what it is, and you step back from the dream, and you're like, wait a minute, everything's already blessed. All these things where I would have rushed to the sale of the holy water to get one. I've got to have one of those holy water bottles. It's like, hang on a minute, I'm not separate from any blessing. You start to realize that, and then all the emotionality of thinking that there's anything out there going on that can verify you, it all starts to just fall away, and you just see how funny it all is. So watch for that in your own mind, because I know when you read that lesson, that's what was occurring. All right? Read it again, same one. Try to be the observer of yourself reading the lesson. See if you can pick it up. There's no separate self. You ready?
I have invented the world I see.
Take a breath.
I made up the prison in which I see myself. All I need do is recognize this, and I am free. I have deluded myself into believing it is possible to imprison the Son of God. I was bitterly mistaken in this belief, which I no longer want.
Don't try, just let it happen.
The Son of God must be forever free. He is as God created him, and not what I would make of him. He is where God would have him be, and not where I thought to hold him prisoner.
You see, that's working. You have no clue where you thought to hold him prisoner. Those words make you affect your state. You know, it's funny. It's just funny. Here's where God would have him be. I don't know where that is. But yet, look at me, crying and shit. Just everything's like coming up, but I don't actually know what it means. I don't know what Jesus is talking about here. But yet, look what these words are doing to me. There's a resonance in me where somewhere within you, there's a place where you actually do know. But it's not the Tina. It's not the Bernadette. And it's not the Anna or the Michelle or the Dave. The Christ is not a body, or the association of the body, or the stories told about the body. It's like all that emotional stuff that's coming up when you read those is literally the kicking of the birth of the Christ in you. It's like a baby in there, just like a mother talking to the child, you know, when the baby's in the tummy and you mothers, I've seen you mothers do this, don't pretend, and you talk to the baby like the baby can hear you. You know, and the baby responds, it kicks and wiggles around. Oh, that's my mama talking to me. Right. These words are food for the Christ. They're not for the Dave or the Tina or the Anna. Dave and Tina and Anna are the obstacle. We're the one that's got to step back and get wholly out of the way. It's like, all right, God, I'm going to leave this up to you. I'm just going to totally leave this up to you. I have no clue. I'm just going to read these words. Let it be a miracle. And let something happen in me that these words are going to unlock energetically. This book, the reading of these lessons, it's sort of like this activation of a code. And I actually read a book once called The Awakening Code or something like that it was called. And how everything, and not just the lessons in the book, but how everything in your life is part of a sequence of events where there's an orchestration to get you to focus on a certain thing at a certain time so that you make a certain response, and bam, 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 it's like a key in a lock. And all of a sudden it brings you to a point, and you get this with young people a lot. They get very passionate for the journey of the heart. Oh, I'm just going to follow my heart, especially young girls. Young women and young girls love this twirling in the moonlight and following their heart and this serendipity and this whole thing, right? And when you get to a point where you can see what that is, right, you realize that it's just another key going into another lock and being turned, and that they're going through a particular stage which is preparing them for the next thing, which will eventually lead them to the disciplining of the mind, which is where we're at now. That doesn't mean you can't still go out and twirl in the moonlight, but it's like you're probably looking at it now like, really? I used to do that? I don't know. I used to go drumming and do all sorts of things in the full moon and fire twirling all my friends because we lived on a commune, you know, and all this sort of stuff. And I look at it now and there's no association with it in me. Like I remember it and I went through that whole phase and that whole thing, but I don't have a connection with it anymore. It's like it's transcended that or transformed whatever that was because of the requirement of that to be able to line up and bring me to where I'm at now. You know, so the thing that I love about this course is that it's experiential. It's experiential. You read those words and all of a sudden, oh my God, you can feel it coming up. You can feel up this wellspring of emotionality coming up. If you were reading this course and it was just this dead literature to you, I would tell you go and read something else. Like, you know, it's got to be alive in you. Tina, it's alive in you. Right? Probably step back from it a little more when you're reading. Allow that emotionality to happen in a more objective way if you can. I don't know how to teach that part of it because that's an action in your own mind that you'll kind of like, you'll be reading it one day and you'll be like, oh, I just read that whole thing and I didn't have a response, but I see that all this stuff happened. You know, I felt a certain way about it and all this emotionality came up, but I wasn't really connected to the emotionality. It's like after my enlightenment, I had about 4 months where I couldn't stop laughing, literally could not stop laughing. There was nothing funny. I didn't know why I was laughing. It was just like this incredible non-stop. It was ridiculous. At first, I thought it was funny. At first, I kind of enjoyed it and thought, wow, I'm just laughing. Look how happy I am. And then I realized it was kind of like this manic laughing. It was like I couldn't stop it even if I wanted to. I realized that there was something else going on and that I could no longer associate with it as an emotional state. It was simply a response to the awakening. You know, it was how my emotions came out. It was how everything, it's like Gemma, right? So Gemma from our English group, she's starting to have those same responses. She's starting to laugh and have that laughter and uncontrollable laughter. Eventually what happens, and that, which is one of the 7 stages of Buddhahood, where Buddha, after his awakening, went into a period where he couldn't stop laughing, which is why they have in China, they're big on the laughing Buddha, right? Nobody knew why he was laughing, really. But it's documented. You know, it's a documented stage that he went through. And if you can't remember the guy, Colin, no, it wasn't Colin Tipping. There was a lovely book that was written about the 7 stages of Buddhahood. And oh, no. I think it was a pamphlet given out that I read from a temple somewhere. But anyway, the detachment from the emotional response, the detachment from the emotional state as it's triggered or as it's activated is what it is that the Course is affecting in you. Okay? In the idea of give up the world and follow me, you can't give up the world in a physical sense. I mean, you can in your enlightenment because it all just vanishes. But in the idea of give up the world and follow me, you're giving up the meaning that you've given everything, right? So that first lesson, nothing I see means anything, you wouldn't need that lesson if you hadn't given everything meaning. Okay? So I read that lesson, nothing I see means anything. All of a sudden, I'm looking at my kids or I'm looking at someone that I think means something to me, and I have direct conflict. It's like, wait a minute. What do you mean my kids don't mean anything? It's like, well, now you have to look at it reasonably. Am I going to follow Jesus a bit further down that rabbit hole and look at what that's about? Or am I just going to refuse to accept that part of it and I'll pretend everything else doesn't mean something, but my kids are still part of the dream, you know? And then you become, as you look at it more and more reasonably, you're like, oh, they're not my kids. They're children of God. I'm a guardian or I'm a parent or I'm a whatever it is I call myself. But we're brothers in Christ. That little child and me, we come from the same source and we're the same thing, you know? But because we love the story and we love the emotionality of things that we're so sewn into it with, we form all these bonds and call them relationships and define our relationships in different ways. This one's special, this one's not special, all these sorts of things. And then as you work your way through the Course and through your relationships, the separation of the state of emotionality and the point of reasonability in your own mind, one of them has to be let go of. And if you're pursuing your enlightenment, well, the one that you're going to let go of is the emotional one, because all emotions are of the ego. So you'll be reading this and you'll be like, I'm feeling all this emotionality, but I don't even have any attachment to it. I don't even have a connection with it. What's going on here? I don't even really know what I'm reading. Why is it having this profound effect in me? Right? All of a sudden you realize that you're actually just along for the ride. You don't really have any control or say in it at all, which is a bit of an affront to the idea of free will, but there is no really such thing as any free will. It's just another illusion, just another part of the dream. It's like, oh, thank God for that. I can't fuck it up then. Yay. Thank you, Jesus. I can't get this wrong if I wanted to. You start to see more and more how you're not in control. All beliefs of control are just completely illusory. It's just like, what the hell have I been worrying about then? Bernadette, can you read the next one, please?
Yes. There is another way looking at the world. Since the purpose of the world is not the one I ascribe to it, there must be another way looking at it. I see everything upside down, and my thoughts are opposite to truth. I see the world as a prison for God's Son. It must be then the world a really place where it can be free, can be set free. I will look upon the world as it is and see it as a place where the Son of God finds his freedom.
Good. Do the next one. Before you read it, close your eyes. Take a few deep breaths. Ask the Holy Spirit to help you even read the words on the page. Ask the Holy Spirit to help you connect with what you're reading. So we're learning to become completely dependent on God, even for reading these lessons. Right? Your ego will distract you. As soon as your ego starts to realize that you're trying to slip away with your allegiance to it, it will try to distract you and get you back, and it'll corrupt your efforts and all these sorts of things. It's a sneaky, devious little thing, which is an action of mind, a process in the mind that you've trained yourself to do so that you don't have to feel the call for God, so that you don't have to feel love's presence within you, so you can give God the big finger. Try to feel that. Here I am, Lord. Here I am. Help me to read even these words. Good.
I could see peace instead of this.
Read that line again.
I could see peace instead of this.
Once more.
I could see peace instead of this. When I see the world as a place of freedom, I realize it reflects the law of God instead of the rules I made up for it to obey. I will understand the place peace, not war, abides in it. And I will perceive the peace also abides in the heart of all who share the place within me.
Anna, can you read the same lesson, please? Bernadette, close your eyes and listen. Try not to hear the words that Anna's speaking. Try to hear the heart space. Try to hear the love that she has for you in her willingness to be of service, and read this lesson review. She's a blessed being. She's a mighty companion on the road with you. And you do her great service and great honor by listening with your heart to her heart.
I could see peace instead of this. When I see the world as a place of freedom, I realize that it reflects the laws of God instead of the rules I made up for it to obey. I will understand that peace, not war, abides in it. I will understand that peace, not war, abides in it. And I will perceive that peace also abides in the hearts of all who share this place with me.
Good. Peace abides in the hearts of all who share this place with me. It's in the heart. You feel it in your heart. Peace as a concept is nothing. Peace as an idea in your mind is worthless. Unless you truly feel it in your heart, unless it brings you rest to your soul, joy to your being, to be at peace in the heart. That's why we're pursuing this mind training. My thoughts don't mean anything. My thoughts about peace don't mean anything. But peace abides in my heart. Let me feel it there. My heart is beating in the peace of God. There's a warmth and a radiance deep within you. We talk about it as our heart, and we put our hand on our chest and we sort of breathe into it, and we feel this wonderful depth and this wonderful resonance with the idea and the comfort and everything that that brings through every experience that we've had of being of peace. All of those experiences are collaborative. All of those experiences add up. And it's like, oh, that deep, deep peace that I have within me is in my heart. I've got to get out of my head. I've got to get out of the concepts. Salvation is freedom from concepts. At first, we have this mind training and these laborious books to work through, and 900 pages, and then another 365 lessons, and then a teacher's manual. It's like, when does it end? All this stuff, it's in my head. It's just like a heavy, heavy thing, you know. It's like, I just want to integrate this thought system into my thinking so that it can sit in my heart, and the power and the passion, the power of decision, which comes from the mind, and the passion of the heart, which is the doing, unite together and become one in me. My heart and my mind are not separate things. And when you first come to mind training, you'll realize it's like I was talking about before, young girls, and they dance in the moonlight and they follow their heart and they have all these heart space, beautiful things. And then you get to the point where you realize, well, my heart's great. My heart space is awesome, but my head's a mess. I've got all this chit chat going on in there and it just doesn't stop, and blah, blah, blah. And it's driving me insane. And you have to discipline the mind. Right? Now, the heart prior to mind training, is a dualistic heart. It has responses for good and bad, right and wrong. And we avoid some things that we say, oh, I don't feel that in my heart space or whatever. And then we look for other things that are more conducive to where we feel our heart space is. And then when we go through our mind training, we realize, well, hang on a minute, that's just separation. I'm only actually really then being half-hearted. Okay. Now, as you begin to purify the mind and let go of the dualistic perspectives of life, seeing with Krishna consciousness or Christ consciousness, just the singular nature of love everywhere. looking beyond the form, looking to the being that is presented, all of a sudden, all of those parts of your experience of yourself, even in the world, that you would have at one time decided against because you didn't think they were very heartful, they get reinterpreted and brought back in under the auspices of healing, and your heart begins to feel more and more full. You begin to feel your heart, and you begin to feel the hearts of others. You begin to hear it in their words. You begin to see it in their actions. You begin to just notice everywhere the compassionate and bountiful expression of love, even through what would once have appeared to you to be the imagery of pain and death. Because those things only ever existed in your own mind as an opposite to something else that you said was not pain and not death. Now we realize that everything is one. I'm letting go of what I think things are, and I'm allowing myself to learn what they truly are. I'm allowing my heart to be filled up by God. That's why Jesus was able to say to people, do you believe in me? If you believe in me, you'll be healed. They weren't believing in him. He was simply representing the whole. He was representing the whole thing. Believing in any one part of the illusion, any one part of the dream as representative of the whole. It's like Jesus says in the Course, choose one brother as symbolic or as representative of all the rest. Do your work with that one brother. It's entirely possible to do that. Select one person. When I said to you, listen to Anna read that, you're listening to yourself read that. You're listening to you. There is no Anna. There's an idea of somebody else out there reading something to me, but it's not true. It's just part of the dream. There is no separation. Anna is myself, my beautiful self, my sacred self. Tina is myself. When any part of the dream or anything seems to be out of accord with anything else going on, I simply can feel it in my own mind, in my own heart. There's this resonance that has a knowing in the mind and a passion in the heart. And it's like, wait a minute, there's like a little tweak that needs to happen there. And you can hear it. And sometimes when you're reading these lessons, you'll feel it yourself or you'll hear it yourself. You'll be, hang on a minute, there's something just a little bit off there. I didn't quite hear that, or I didn't quite resonate with that. And I used to have moments when I was sitting with Ted. He'd do a discourse for about 3 or 4 hours sometimes. And I'd sit there already knowing the Course backwards and inside out as if I wrote it. You know, it's like Michelle. And I'd sit there listening to him, and all of a sudden he'd say something and I'd be like, whoa, what was that? It was like something I was trying to grasp for it. He would say something that I knew he was talking about, something that I hadn't quite integrated or hadn't quite opened up in my mind to look at under an idea of healing. And I would really, really grasp for it. And my mind would automatically, to be like a horse, right? So a horse that knows you've got a sugar cube. Have you? You've probably never fed sugar cube. Have you ever fed a sugar cube to a horse, right? And if you hold it in your hand, the horse knows it's in your hand. You can put it behind your back and the horse will stick its head around behind your back. It will even knock you out of the way to get that sugar cube, right? It'll trample you because sugar cubes are the thing. And when Ted was talking and I would hear something, it was like a little sugar cube, or what do they call those things? Easter egg. It was like an Easter egg in a movie or in a thing where there's something there, you know there's something there, but you can't quite put your finger on it, right? When you read these lessons, the same thing happens. You're reading it, there's something there that you resonate with, but you can't quite touch it, right? The reason you can't touch it is because you don't actually exist. You're just a mythical figure in your own idea of yourself. It's kind of funny. You're tricked into going further down the rabbit hole, more, further. Awakening. all of a sudden you have an actual awakening and you go, holy crap, it's nothing like what I thought it was going to be. You have an experience of like being outside of your body or beyond the universe, and it's just like, damn, my ideas of what I thought love were so limited, so nothing compared to what the experience is. It's just funny. But it doesn't take time, Bernadette. It doesn't take time. One representation of the whole is the whole. Right? Anna, I want you to read the next lesson. Bernadette's going to listen. Now, I'm going to give you another way to listen to it. I want you to listen to it as if your father is reading this to you, your actual physical father or mother, it doesn't really matter, someone that has a deep emotional connection, as if you were a little child and they were reading you a bedtime story. And you treasured those bedtime stories. You knew that after that, there was nothing else. You had to go to sleep, but you always look forward to the bedtime story. And it's like, oh God, I hope it's a good one. I hope it's a good one. And you're in your bed, you know, and they come and they tell you the story and you're like, you're so excited, right? You're getting the story. Now, that excitement is where I want you to be. It's like, be excited for salvation. If you're just reading these words on the page, you know, like what is that? Read the words like, oh my God, I'm about to read this next word and the whole universe is going to disappear. Something's going to happen in me and allow the entirety of the universe to just go whoop and flash out, and I'll be in the light. I'll be back home, which is where you actually are. Right? Don't fall into the trap of familiarity, of you know, the old saying, familiarity breeds contempt. You've never read these words before. You've never heard them before. You've got memories in your head that say, oh, I've been doing this course for so many years. I've done this workbook lesson so many times, blah, blah, blah. No, you haven't. That's a lie. There's only this moment. When have you ever done it before? The dream will provide endless witnesses to the idea of the past or the future. But those things are false. They're false witnesses. The true witness is hearing your brother. Now you have ears and you can hear. You have eyes and you can see. Or you have eyes and maybe they're beginning to open to what it is that seeing actually is. Let this be miraculous. Let this book, it's a course in miracles for a reason, not a course in I can get this, I can work this out. That's not what it's about. It's a course in miracles, a miracle. It's a miracle because you have no clue what a miracle is. If you did, you'd screw it up. You'd look at it with your pointy little brain and poke at it from every side. Oh, so that's what a miracle is. No. Let it be a miracle. Okay? Keep your heart and your mind open and listen. Anna, when you're ready. You need to have an experience. Michelle, experience. Tina, experience. Anna, experience. Bernadette, experience. Breathe.
My mind is part of God's. I am very holy. As I share the peace of the world with my brothers, I begin to understand that this peace comes from deep within myself. The world I look upon has taken on the light of my forgiveness and shines forgiveness back at me.
Yes.
In this light, I begin to see what my illusions about myself kept hidden. I begin to understand the holiness of all living things, including myself, and their oneness with me.
I can't understand that holiness from the past. Holiness is an experience. It's a present state. It's my being. It's my I am. I have to live from it. I have to live from my spirit. I have to live from my holiness. Then I will know what it is. I can't be reading, hoping to discover what it is in the next moment. That's not how it works. I'm that already. I'm already holy. I'm just remembering. Michelle, you're already holy. You are that. You have to live from it. That's what the Course is teaching you. Let go of the doubt. Let go of the denial and the fear. Let go of time. You're that already. You're it now. The thing that you seek, you are. The action of seeking it denies it in you. It doesn't take time to learn this course. It just takes willingness. Here I am, Lord. Here I am. Your son. I am the Christ, along with all my brothers. I am that now. I don't remember what that is, but I'm willing to accept that Jesus is telling me that I'm that, and I'm just going to take his word for it. I'm just going to take his word for it. I am that. I'm the Christ along with him. Feel it. Try to feel it. It's almost like some kind of superhero thing. I am the Christ. I'm the living child of God. Albeit I find myself seemingly implanted in this dream state where I'm being awoken gently from my coma of denial. But I'm remembering now. I'm remembering what it is. And any moment I'm going to wake up. It's like I'm awake in my dream. It's like, cool. This is just a dream. I'm awake in the dream. Now what? Let's awaken from the dream. Beyond the world, beyond the body. There is an arc of golden shining light, and it forms a circle, and everything within the circle fills with light that was there before is now vanished and gone, and then the light passes out beyond the circle and encompasses all things you think you once saw. And you are home and you remember everything perfectly. There's like a door in your consciousness. There's a portal. There's a thing that's in there, and all you have to do is ask. I want this, Father. If it's what I am, show me what it is. I'm ready. I want it. Jesus says in the Course, the time will come where you'll even demand it. That seemed a little bit arrogant when I first read that. Why would I demand it? It's like, that's not very humble. But if Jesus says there's a time that will come where I demand my release, I demand it now. I want to know now. Father, here I am. I've been doing all this mind training to become revelation ready. I want my revelation. Ask. Ask and you shall receive. You have to ask. Climb a mountain. Ask at the top of the mountain. Swim across an ocean. Ask on the other side of the ocean. Whatever it is that brings that sense of integrity to your asking. A pilgrimage, perhaps, or an act of devotion or something. But it's like you've got to find that asking deep within yourself. It's deep in the heart. You can't ask on the surface. There's nothing happening superficial. It's just lip service. This conscious mind babble. Oh, I'd like that experience now. Thanks, Jesus, if that's okay by you. It's got to come from the heart. It's got to be a wrenching, heartfelt prayer of longing. It's in you. It's in you somewhere. When I went through the dark night of my soul, that prayer came out of my heart, and the prayer covered every base. The prayer, I didn't even know what I was praying for. It was like somebody else was speaking it out through my lips. And the prayer covered every base that you could possibly imagine that would ensure that my salvation was accomplished that night. I was asking for things that were previously unknown to me to be asked for. It was like God wrote that prayer in my heart himself. And that's what it says in the Course. God put the prayer of the heart in you himself so that you would not lose your way and you would not become lost forever. And when you want it enough, when you want it more than the world, it'll come out all by itself. Until then, you have to look honestly at the world and see what it is that you think you still want. Either go out there and pursue it and see that it just leads to nothing, or be willing to sit in prayer and offer it for healing. One or the other. There's no other choice. That's it. You either want the world or you don't want the world. Well, I don't want the world, but I like that bit there. That bit's not too bad. I wouldn't mind giving up the world, Jesus, if I can just have a little bit more of that, though, just before we go, you know. Just before God takes that final step, I wouldn't mind just going to see Italy again, you know, whatever. There's always going to be something. A trip to the Alps, you know. It's beautiful up there. It reminds me of heaven. How do you know? You don't even remember what heaven is. It's just another story you tell yourself in your craziness. It's like, oh, you mean I'm insane? Yes, completely, beautifully, wonderfully insane. Stop being afraid of your insanity. Just enjoy it and sink into it. There's nothing worse in this world than trying to be normal, trying to fit in. Let yourself be totally off tap or off chops, we say here. Let yourself be totally off chops. Who cares what people think of you? You're already doing A Course in Miracles, for goodness sakes. Half the world would think you're insane. The other half haven't heard of it yet. Oh, that's that crazy spiritual lady down the end of the street. She's got 12 cats. Just cross the road, kids. When you get down to that part of the street, cross the road and go. Don't want to catch anything. You might start laughing for no reason at all. All right, breathe. Everybody close your eyes. Tina, don't take it all so seriously. You ready? Close your eyes. Sometimes you just got to say, fuck it. Right, exactly. Fuck it. Fuck it's one of the highest spiritual teachings. It's like U.G. Krishnamurti, right? I love U.G. Krishna. So U.G. Krishnamurti's final teaching is turning his back on the world, and he says, I cannot help you. It's the ultimate fuck it. Here's this enlightened guy who's just like, I can't fucking help you. You've got to do this for yourself. You know? But yet he has no clue how many people he actually did help in his during his ministry. He helped fucking hundreds of thousands of people. Okay? But in his own mind, he came to a point of realization where, imagine if he had had the course with 365 lessons, there would have been a whole nother thing. Now I can help you. But it's like you got to remember those guys only had the Gitas and the Vedas and, you know, like that whole Upanishad collections, like trying to decipher all of that and put it into some sort of context where village people, basically, not the YMCA kind, but the farmers and, you know, where village people could actually understand it and use it in their thing. It's like why Jesus used parables about farming and about fishing and stuff like that, because that's how people were in the day and that's what they related to. They didn't have a vast conceptual array of different parameters for referencing things with. They just had to go with, like, throw your net on that side of the boat and you'll pull up the fish. You know, that's a pretty good analogy. But it's the same thing with all those Gitas. And now we have this. Now we've got this incredible unearthly text and these lessons that actually, when we read them, begin to move us. And yet we don't even really know why they're moving us. They're just a bunch of stories in our head, which we're told in reading the lessons don't mean anything. It's like it's completely paradoxical. I'm reading something that's telling me it doesn't mean anything, including the thing I'm reading, And yet I'm responding to it as if it means something. Am I actually reading it then? Am I actually hearing what it says and applying it in my own mind? Or am I just sort of sitting in the references of my own association with it and not actually hearing it? There's a whole nother level. It's like you first come into this and you're on this superficial level and you read it and it's like, oh, thank God I've got Course in Miracles. I'm never letting this go because it makes sense of the world. It makes sense of all my shit, all my pain, all my suffering and struggle and everybody. All of a sudden I've got something, I can work it out. And all it tells you is, no, you can't work it out. You start to begin to wonder, what's the point of me even having this book? And the book makes itself redundant to you and leaves you in a place where you are the Christ. Now, that changes everything. That changes the entire world. The greatest gift you can give to your world is your own awakening, your own Christhood, not this. Mohandas Gandhi, one of those over-quoted things that people say about him, one of his quotes is to be the change you want to see in the world. The only change that you can be is awake. Asleep or awake, asleep or awake. If there's a change for me that's possible, let it be that. Now, it's going to happen incrementally as we do these lessons until you get to the point that you've never actually been asleep. And you'll be like, holy cow, I just forgot for a moment. I just forgot what I was. No time is actually passing. Eternity means that there is no time. So no time is actually passing. But I'm in a dream of thinking that I'd forgotten what I was for a second and that I'd been in this world of pain, suffering, and death. And it's not true. Now I'm awake in the dream. Bernadette, now you're awake in the dream. Look around yourself. Look around at your room that you're sitting in. You've got a thing up there behind you on the wall, mandala thing, and this is all an illusion. All form is illusory. You're in your own mind. You're sitting in a room in your own mind, externalizing it as mandala, blanket on the wall, whatever that is, and other things. Right? Stay awake. It's like this around me, this room, this dingle thing, crystal, whatever that my daughter had. You guys can't see it, but there's a little. This thing all. It makes little rainbows and stuff when the sun hits it. You know, it's just distractions. It's just window dressing. But when I remember that it's a dream, when I remember that I'm awake within the dream, it's like, aha. Now I'm in charge again. Now I'm in control of my mind again. And that habitual response of slipping back into dreaming where I'm like, oh, isn't that all those rainbows? Isn't that pretty? I wonder how it does that. And all that analysis and that judgment and that associative thing has to be formed in the mind to make up another story about something else that has no reality whatsoever. Like, what do I care? What do I care, really? I sit at the right-hand side of God. I sit at the right-hand side of God, God's Son. Try to get a sense of that. I just got to pay off my mortgage. I have to work overtime this week so that they don't repossess the car. Let them repossess the car. Walk out on your mortgage. This is salvation we're talking about. Whatever it takes. It's whatever it takes, literally. When I heard God's voice speak to me, it came out of the sky, it came out of the floor, out of the mountains, out of the window frames, out of everywhere, out of my consciousness. It's like I had to leave my house. I knew I had to leave it. I had to walk out of my job, my car, my house, my relationships, everything, and do what I was told. There wasn't even any wiggle room. There was nothing. I basically just had the clothes on my back. Everything else was suddenly so unimportant. It was ridiculous how I could have ascribed it any meaning to begin with. You hear that voice speak to you from the sky like that. Booming, powerful, creative. You know it's God. It's like the whole universe just resonates with the voice. And all of a sudden, everything's just like meaningless. It's just pointless. And you realize that love is all that matters. Just love. Everything else is rubbish. It's just rubbish. It's nothing. It's so hilarious. I keep thinking there's something in something, or, you know, like, the world can't define you, Bernadette. The world cannot tell you what you are. Stop letting it. It's not you. The you that you think you are as Bernadette studying the course, that's not you. You're a figure in your own dream. You're now becoming the dreamer of your own dream. But think of it like you're in eternity in a coma. The tiny mad idea didn't happen in time and space. Into eternity, where all is one, crept a tiny mad idea. That happened in eternity, where you actually are. You're asleep there in the divine hospital ward of people who believe in the tiny mad idea, and everyone that you love is standing around your bed there waiting for you to wake up. I'm here, entered into your dream, saying, Bernadette, you're dreaming. This is an illusion. This is nothing. You have to wake up from this. Everyone's waiting for you. And now the little light bulb's starting to go on. Now there's a thing happening in your mind going, what the hell? What do I do with that even? You can't do anything with it. It has to be miraculous. You've got to ask, Father, I want to wake up. I want to know the truth. Ask and you shall receive. But you've got to ask for that more than you asking for the world, more than you want the dream. Good, Tina, good. Breathe. All right, everyone close your eyes. Take a few deep breaths.